Did 12 years.
12
got
years.
out, interviewed, said he kept it real, brought him cars, gave him $50,000.
Right.
You know how it goes in the hood. When things get tough, the rats start getting restless. And trust me, the hood doesn't lie about this. Word on the street is that there's a rat in Lil Durk's circle. In this video, we're about to dive into the shocking reaction from an OTF member after Lil Durk supposedly called him a snitch. Let's get into it. Betrayal in the family? That's one of the worst things that can happen. The thing is, betrayal doesn't usually come from your enemies. It comes from the people closest to you, the ones you trust the most. But here's the sad reality. Trusting people too easily can cost you everything, especially on the streets. After Lil Durk got arrested on federal charges linked to a murder-for-hire plot, it looks like one of his own turned on him. This whole situation is hard to believe. How could Durk's own circle betray him like this? Reports are coming in, like one from the Express Tribune, claiming that an OTF member might have snitched on him. This person, who spent years in Durk's corner, is now allegedly connected to an attempted murder of Quando Rondo, which led to the death of Lil P. Things have been crazy on the streets, but this twist has left the entire industry in shock. The informant, known as OTF Jam, allegedly wore a wire for years to gather information for the authorities. Jam had just gotten out of prison in 2022 after serving 12 years for attempted murder. Now people are saying he gave authorities info that directly links Lil Durk to that murder-for-hire plot. Say Cheese was one of the first to break the news about this in-house betrayal. As soon as people found out, there were all kinds of questions about how Jam was able to hide that wire for so long. Some people joked that he was hiding it in his big forehead, while others pointed out that these days, you don't even need a wire. Your phone could be the wire. In a recent interview on Vlad TV, Whack 100, a well-known music exec and rapper, weighed in on the situation. He couldn't believe how Jam got out of prison after 12 years, claiming he was loyal, got gifts and respect from Durk, and was treated like family, only to flip on him later. DJ Vlad reminded everyone that Jam had served time for attempted murder, and when he was released, he allegedly started gathering evidence that eventually led to Durk's arrest. This whole betrayal has taken the hip-hop world by storm. Everyone's talking about how Jam managed to stay undercover for so long. And if that wasn't enough, an old interview with Jam has resurfaced. In it, he talked about how Durk's music and support helped him get through prison. He even mentioned that Durk used to make rap songs for their parties back in the day, before the fame and money kicked in. Durk was there for him even when no one else was. But now, Jam's been accused of working with the authorities to bring Durk down. This story just keeps getting more twisted by the day. How could someone who was once like family do this to Durk? It's a tough pill to swallow, and the streets are still buzzing about it. What do you think about this betrayal? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Alright, listen up. You know how they say when things get tough, the rats start showing their true colors? Well, it looks like Lil Durk might have been blind to one in his own circle. OTF Jam, who is like family to Durk, might have just done the unthinkable. But how could this happen when Durk's always been there for him? OTF Jam and Lil Durk go way back. We're talking about before the fame, before the money. It was all about loyalty. Jam even said Durk looked out for him big time while he was locked up. Durk made sure he had money for his lawyer and helped him get his life in order. There was even a rumor going around that Lil Durk gave him $50,000 to help him settle his stuff after he got out of prison. Durk mentioned it in one of his songs too. And when OTF Jam was asked about it, he didn't hesitate. Yeah, he gave me 50, no question. But here's where it gets crazy. When OTF Jam got out of jail, everyone thought he was coming back to the family. But guess what? A rat was welcomed into the house. Jam, who Durk treated like a brother, had been hiding a wire, gathering information on him. This is the kind of betrayal that hits hard. It's one thing to expect it from an enemy, but from someone you've been down with for years, that's a different level of hurt. One person on the street broke it down real clean. Jam had been locked up for 12 years, and Durk treated him right the whole time. He gave him the good life, fed him well, Then Jam comes home, all excited to live the dream, and next thing you know, he's caught with a firearm. For someone like him, that's a huge problem. It's not just the charge, it's the life he's built since getting out. And once you've tasted that better life, it's hard to go back. Here's the thing. When you're on the streets, the feds aren't looking out for you like Durk does. No one's gonna protect you the way Durk would've. So, if Jam thought he was gonna escape his problems by snitching, he probably didn't think it all the way through. Unless, of course, the feds promised him protection for him and his family. But that's still a big risk to take. Once the news hit about OTF Jam being the rat, it made people start questioning what only the family really stands for. OTF isn't just a name, it's a code. It's about loyalty, trust, and survival in a world where you're always looking out for each other. Durk built OTF on that foundation. He never doubted Jam when he came out of prison, thinking he was straight. But what happens when that loyalty is broken? So, what really went down? OTF Jam was convicted of a shooting back in 2010, did his time, and got out in February 2022. But just a year later, he was arrested again. Rumor has it, Jam might have snitched on Durk to avoid going back to prison. But was it really the prison time that changed him? Some people think it's deeper than that. There's even talk on the streets that Lil Durk found out Jam was wearing a wire, and to make things even crazier, he might have had Jam's baby mama killed. It gets even wilder. Rumors say Durk had someone else killed in retaliation for his brother's death. Now these are just rumors, but Poetic Flacco, who's always on top of the streets, said that the feds think Durk might have been behind it all. Whether it's true or not, the streets are buzzing with talk. So, what does this all mean? Loyalty is a heavy word, and sometimes the closest people to you turn out to be the ones who hurt you the most. The question is, how far will Durk go now? And what's next for OTF after this betrayal? So there's a lot of buzz going around about OTF Jam, Lil Durk, and some serious drama that might change everything. Here's the deal. Rumors have been spreading that Lil Durk found out OTF Jam was wearing a wire. And because of that, Jam's baby mama ended up getting killed. But it doesn't stop there. The feds think OTF Jam could be the one to bring Durk down, possibly tying him to a whole murder-for-hire plot, including 3 bodies. Sounds wild, right? But there's been no solid proof to back up all these rumors, at least not yet. Now here's where it gets a bit crazy. While everyone's trying to figure out what's really going on with Jam and why he'd betray Durk, the internet had a bit of fun with it. A clip surfaced showing OTF Jam eating McDonald's in what looks like an interrogation room. Fans started cracking jokes, saying he was snitching on Durk while munching on his Big Mac and fries. The trolling got out of hand when DJ Academics jumped in and asked his followers to caption the image. Of course, fans didn't hold back. One person joked, "Bro snitched on Durk for a Big Mac and fries." Another said, "You're probably wondering how I got here." It was all in good fun, but the real story behind Jam and Durk is a lot more serious than a McDonald's meal. While Jam was out there having his fast food moment, things were taking a sharp turn for Lil Durk. He got arrested in Florida, facing serious charges for being involved in a murder-for-hire plot. The whole industry was shocked when the news broke. Durk, whose real name is Durk Banks, was taken into custody by the U.S. Marshals. The charge? The feds say he was part of a plot that led to the death of Quando Rondo's cousin in 2022. But this isn't just one person involved. 5 others were arrested as well, and they're all connected to the shooting in Los Angeles. Here's the breakdown. These 5 men allegedly traveled across state lines to carry out the attack in revenge for King Von's death. Von, Durk's close friend, was killed back in 2020 in Atlanta. The feds have been working to connect all these dots, and now they're saying this shooting was part of a bigger retaliation plan. The indictment shows that these 5 men were part of Durk's crew, OTF. So now, it looks like the feds are trying to connect Durk to the whole thing. And if you're thinking it can't get any crazier, it does. The feds were always looking for a solid link to tie Durk to the murders, and it seems like they got it through OTF Jam. Jam, being in Durk's inner circle, would have known a lot about what was going on, and now it looks like the feds might have gathered all the proof they needed from him. As soon as they had that evidence, they moved in, and bam, Durk got arrested. Now, Durk's in Broward County Jail in Florida, waiting to be sent to California to face his charges. This was big news. DJ Academics broke the story, and everyone in the industry is talking about it. Durk's label, OTF, Only the Family, has always been his claim to fame. He says it's not a gang, but a family of close friends. However, with these charges, people are starting to question what OTF really stands for. As it stands, the 5 men arrested are being accused of trying to kill people from Quando Rondo's circle to get back at him for King Von's death. The indictment named the 5 suspects, and while Durk wasn't directly named in it, his connection to the people involved has put him under the microscope. So we're left wondering, was OTF really about family, or was there a darker side to it all? Big news has just broken about Lil Durk's involvement in a major legal case. Let me take you through what's been happening because it's a lot to unpack. On October 17th, federal agents confirmed that Durk is facing serious charges tied to a murder-for-hire plot. The indictment has named 5 people in connection with the murder of El Pap, but the case is way bigger than just that. The charges include conspiracy to commit murder for hire, actual murder for hire, and using a machine gun during the crime. Sounds like a movie, right? But here's the thing. The feds are saying this was all part of a well-organized plan allegedly involving OTF, Only the Family, Durk's own crew. The plan? To take out Quando Rondo. But something went wrong, and instead of Rondo, it was his cousin, El Pap, who was killed. The crazy part? Some OTF members supposedly used a credit card tied to the record label to buy plane tickets, letting them travel from Chicago to California after finding out Quando Rondo's location. Let's break it down. The 5 men named in the indictment are accused of carrying out this shooting, but it looks like it was just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. According to the feds, this shooting was revenge for King Von's tragic death back in 2020, and Quando Rondo was believed to be involved. King Von was a close friend of Lil Durk, and his death sparked a huge feud. But here's the shocking twist. The indictment isn't just going after these 5 men. The feds are also accusing Lil Durk of running this whole operation. They're calling OTF not just a music label, but a criminal enterprise. Durk, who's referred to as Banks in legal papers, is allegedly the mastermind behind some of these criminal acts, including the 2020 plot to her. Now, things take another crazy turn. The feds claim that Durk was trying to leave the country when his associates were arrested. After the arrests, the authorities found out Durk had booked flights to Dubai and Switzerland. But get this, he never actually boarded those flights. Instead, the FBI learned that he had planned to leave on a private jet to Italy. But they caught him just before he could board. So what's really going on here? The new indictment suggests that OTF was running a whole operation behind the scenes. It says that one of Durk's people, referred to as Co-Conspirator 1, put a bounty on Quando Rondo's head. If someone helped kill Rondo, or TB as he's referred to in the docs, they'd get paid or be rewarded with music deals through OTF. It's not just about bloodshed. The indictment claims there were also promises of cash and career opportunities for anyone willing to take part in the violence. Now, let's get to the real twist. Durk is apparently co-conspirator 3 in the case. The feds say that using a credit card linked to OTF, Durk arranged for his people to travel to California to carry out the murder. They even used the same card to book hotel rooms for the hitman. And the wildest part? The card was linked to an account that belonged to Durk's former manager. They also found that Durk's father was tied to the same account. But things didn't go as planned. The indictment says that 2 of Durk's co-conspirators fired multiple shots, killing El Pap, who was in the car with Quando Rondo. If you've been following this case, you know that El Pap is the same person as TB. After the attack, rumors spread that someone tipped off Rondo's location to the shooters. So, who snitched? That's the million-dollar question. According to the feds, on August 18, 2022, one of the co-conspirators learned that Quando Rondo was staying at a hotel in Los Angeles. The indictment suggests someone gave up that info, and now everyone's wondering who it was. Stay tuned, because this case is still unfolding, and the answers might surprise us. Before you start piecing everything together, let's take a moment to understand how the indictment describes that tragic day. According to the feds, a group of killers used 2 cars, including one with no license plate, to track and try to kill TB at a gas station in Los Angeles. They fired at least 18 rounds at TB's car, and sadly, some of those bullets hit and killed El Pap. After the crime, prosecutors say the killers met at a restaurant to cover up the payment for the attack. But here's the mistake. The same OTF-linked credit card was used to buy tickets for a flight to Chicago the next day. Here's where things take a much darker turn. The indictment sheds light on how this recent murder attempt is tied directly to the tragic events surrounding King Von's death back in 2020. What we're seeing isn't just a random act of violence, but part of a deep, long-running conflict that has only grown more complicated and deadly over the years. Prosecutors are now saying that the murder attempt on TB and the chain of events that followed were retaliation for King Von's death, a tragic end to a violent chapter that continues to unravel. To understand the gravity of this situation, we need to go back to 2020, when King Von, a beloved rapper and member of the OTF Only the Family crew, was tragically murdered. The death sent shockwaves throughout the rap world and ignited a firestorm of tension, especially between King Von's crew and Quando Rondo's camp. These 2 groups had been at odds for a while, with a simmering rivalry that had only escalated in the months leading up to that fateful night. However, no one could have predicted the tragic and fatal altercation that occurred outside of the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta, which would go on to have profound consequences for everyone involved. On November 6, 2020, King Von and his entourage were at the Monaco Hookah Lounge, a popular venue for nightlife. Meanwhile, Quando Rondo, another rapper and rising star, along with his crew, were also present. Though the night was meant to be nothing more than a typical evening of hanging out, tensions between the 2 crews were at an all-time high. The bad blood between King Von and Quando Rondo had been building up for months, with both sides seemingly primed for conflict. Then, things took a turn for the worse. Surveillance footage from that night captured King Von approaching Quando Rondo outside the lounge. Almost immediately, King Von threw the first punch, and what followed was a full-blown brawl between the 2 entourages. As punches were thrown and chaos ensued, the situation quickly escalated beyond control. In the heat of the fight, someone from Quando Rondo's crew, a man named Timothy Leaks, known as LOL Tim, pulled out a gun and fired. Multiple shots were fired, and King Von was hit several times. His crew tried to rush him to safety, but the damage was already done. Von was critically injured and died from his wounds that night. The tragedy not only took the life of a young rapper, but it also deepened the rift between the 2 crews, further entrenching them in a cycle of retaliation and violence that shows no signs of slowing down. The aftermath of King Von's death was swift and intense. LOL. Tim was arrested at the scene and charged with murder. However, in a move that sparked outrage, he was released on a $100,000 bond, a decision that many believed was an injustice, given the high-profile nature of the case. Meanwhile, Quando Rondo, who was present at the scene, denied any involvement in the shooting. He claimed that he didn't know King Von personally and that his crew was simply acting in self-defense. But despite his denials, the damage had already been done. King Von's death had ignited a firestorm that would ripple throughout the rap world for years to come. What followed was a dangerous escalation of tensions. Both sides were now on high alert, anticipating retaliation for King Von's death. And that brings us to the present, where the murder attempt on TB is being connected to this ongoing feud. Prosecutors believe that the attempt on TB's life was a direct result of King Von's murder. This wasn't a random act of violence, but a calculated response, a continuation of the deadly cycle of retaliation that has been playing out between the 2 crews ever since Von's death. For prosecutors, it's clear that this is more than just a coincidence. It's the latest chapter in a violent saga that shows no signs of resolution. But what's even more chilling is the realization that this feud is not just about 2 rappers or their crews. It's about something much deeper, a long-standing battle for respect and survival in a world where loyalty is everything, and any perceived disrespect can lead to deadly consequences. Both King Von and Quando Rondo came from backgrounds where violence and street codes played a huge role in shaping their lives. For King Von, it was about representing his neighborhood and his crew, while for Quando Rondo, it was about maintaining his reputation and protecting his own. But in the process, both men found themselves trapped in a vicious cycle that would ultimately lead to loss and pain. When I was researching this case, I came across a comment that hit me hard. It pointed out that all of this chaos started from a fight driven by egos back in 2020. And it's even worse to think that what started as a fight over pride could end up affecting Durk for the rest of his life. The reality is, when you're in the spotlight and surrounded by people who are willing to do anything for you, your choices today will follow you forever. Who you hang out with and what you get involved in can shape your career and your life. This has been a crazy month for Lil Durk. Just a week ago, he was being honored in his hometown with keys to the cities of Broadview and Bellwood for his charity work. The Grammy-winning rapper was celebrated as a local hero. But just days later, everything flipped. Durk was arrested in Florida for his alleged role in a murder conspiracy. In a shocking twist, the mayor of Broadview took back the keys and ended their partnership with Durk's nonprofit. The mayor explained that while the justice system assumes innocence until proven guilty, the town's residents hold themselves to higher moral standards. This is what happens when you get tangled up in gang life. Your reputation is ruined, your legacy is at risk, and even if you avoid prison, the consequences are always hanging over you. For some, like King Von, those consequences are deadly. Looking back at King Von's death, it all started at the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta on the night of November 6, 2020. King Von and his crew were there, and so was Quando Rondo's crew. Tensions were high, and no one could predict how quickly things would spiral. Surveillance footage shows Von approaching Rondo outside, and suddenly fists were flying. The situation got out of control when someone from Rondo's crew pulled out a gun and fired. King Von was shot multiple times, and despite trying to save him, he didn't make it. Afterward, Quando Rondo denied any involvement, claiming it was just self-defense. But it didn't matter. King Von was gone, and Rondo's crew continued to live in fear of retaliation. Now, 5 years later, the consequences are still being felt. King Von is no longer here, and the events of that night still affect everyone involved. Lil Durk, once on top of the world, is now facing a life in prison for his alleged role in this ongoing cycle of violence. If this story caught your attention, click the card on your screen for more videos like this.